In last week's episode, we stripped down Sega's gunfight from 1969. With all the parts now disassembled, we could finally see how much work was needed to restore this machine and what parts were needed to be replaced. The cleaning process began, starting with the playfield, and Richard got really excited when we finally got a closer look at the electronics. Welcome back, Arcadians, to the gunfight restoration, which I'm really excited about, because in this week's episode you're going to see me tackling some of the woodwork and metalwork. You're going to see me pulling the heads and legs off little cowboy men, and Richard starts testing the electronics, so if we're lucky we might hear some sound effects and even see some moving parts. So carrying on from the last video, I started to dismantle the acrylic topper, which is held together by this metal frame. I've been dreading doing this as it looks like a lot of the screws are rusty and going to be very difficult to remove. Guys, so this is the topper. So there are 4 sections of this which make up the box, which hinges on top of the cabinet. This one has the logo, the Sega logo and the gunfight name. So out of all of the 4 pieces, I really need to do a good job of this because you're not going to get this replaced. The other 3 pieces, it doesn't matter, we can get recut, because if this takes a long time, it's probably easier and quicker just to get new pieces cut. This one we want to do a good job of. As you can see around the edges here, there's some deep gouges, scratches and rust marks which were caused by this frame. As you can see, it's really rusty. I've got to clean this up at some point. So it's going to take a while for me to polish these out. I've got my Novus, I've got my cloth, and I've also got this drill, which hopefully will make things a little bit quicker. Let's get polishing. To polish out these deep scratches takes a very long time, so we're going to have to return to this at a later date to see the results. On to the metalwork now, and this is the housing for the mechanical part that keeps the gun locked when not in play. After applying a few coats of paint remover and leaving for a few hours, I could then use my 4-inch grinder, which has a wire brush wheel attached. The more intricate areas I'm using wire wool and lots of rubbing with my bare hands. Once all the existing paintwork is removed, we can then start thinking about adding the primer. Now I've set up a cardboard box here which makes for a great spray booth because it keeps all the spray paint confined. And then I'm adding 2 coats of primer, sanding in between each coat, and then it's ready really for the finished coat, which I'm using a satin black.
This machine is over 50 years old, so I'm not expecting it to be all fully working. That said, it's incredibly well made and has very high quality components, connectors and wiring. I have the mains input isolated and also an RCD fitted just in case we have any earth faults. Powering on was fine, so I can move ahead with the electrical testing. After measuring the mains input, various fuses and lockout relays, I'm checking to see if there are any shorts on the transformer or the initial mains wiring. There are some old capacitors, relays and a few diodes on the logic playfield. These surprisingly checked out okay, but they will get replaced before it goes into full service in the arcade. After that, we can move on to measuring all of the relay coils. I'm just checking that they're not shorted or open circuit, that way we can be quite confident they should still operate. It's quite possible the enamel coatings on the coil wires have deteriorated. This would short out the coils and draw too much current, causing other damage if powered on. So it's really important to check the style and age of electromechanical switchgear. Rubber parts will also deteriorate. The geared motor in Gunfight controls a rubber-coated metal disc that has 2 notches detected by a switch. Once the game starts, after a full rotation of the game timer, the disc stops, the switch activates, and then it's expecting another coin to be inserted for another go. Almost all of the machine's logic is controlled by relay contacts. These contacts need to be cleaned, but it's vital not to use any abrasive materials. The contacts need to be deoxidized, but not scratched, scraped or sanded in any way. You can use deoxit or any other contact cleaners for this process. I'm painting on with a small brush and leaving for around 15 minutes. Add some more contact cleaner and just use a sheet of office paper. You can polish up the relay contacts, making sure not to bend or deform the delicate copper armatures. There are some mechanical latching parts. These all need a good clean down of the old grease and dust using PTFE spray and plenty of exercise to get the springs, levers all moving again. There are a lot of relays and wiper contacts to polish, so I'll carry on cleaning here and check more of the mechanical components. Meanwhile, Alex tells me he has a date with a couple of cowboys over in the arcade.
Right, it's time to give these dirty old cowboys a good clean, because they're absolutely filthy. They're covered in grease and they're looking more like 1950s rockers than authentic spaghetti western cowboys. But before we do that, to clean these, we need to really cut the string so we can take the cowboy apart, because the string goes all the way up through the body of the cowboy, and then underneath his hat, you can see there it's knotted and tied together, which kind of gives him a really funky hairdo, looking more like a, I don't know, carry-on cowboy, Sid James, than an authentic spaghetti western cowboy. But that's okay, because that gets covered up by his cowboy hat. So we're going to cut the thread, take him apart, give him a good clean, not make him too clean. We don't want to make him look like a, I don't know, a modern day country singer. We want to keep that authenticity by keeping that look of a spaghetti western character like Clint Eastwood, which is probably where the idea of this came from, because it's 1969. I think the height of the spaghetti westerns was around the late 60s. So we want to keep it authentic. I'm not going to touch any of the paintwork up, just keep it all original, just give it a good clean. So let's see how we get on. Now, this is something I would have done as a kid. I would have taken this cowboy apart just to see how it's all held together. In fact, I did this a lot with those toys. Do you remember those animals that you used to get, where you used to push the thumb from underneath and they used to collapse, usually little horses or little men? I would have taken that apart just to see how it worked. And it's interesting to see that this cowboy is held together basically with a glob of glue, which is just hidden underneath his hat, which almost looks like a wig, a toupee. He kind of reminds me of my old school teacher. So he's going to get a bad deal. he's going to get dumped in the bath, and he's going to get his face washed, but not in the order that most people would wash their face in. So we're going to clean all those crusty bits out of his eyes, get all those boogers out of his nose, rub them back into his eyes, and then back up his nose, and then rub it all in his mouth. It's amazing to work on a machine this old and from a company like Sega that went on to dominate the arcade scene in the later years. I don't actually remember this game in the arcade as I was too young, but I would have imagined it was around for at least a good 10 years still making money.
So with the electronics, we've got that out on the bench, and after all the checking, we decided to put the power on. Oh, hey, yes, something's happening, ace. At that point, we had a couple of relays clicking, which was great. We could actually get the coin mech clicking, and that latched the game into run mode. Yeah, that's reset. So that slides all those back. Oh yeah, oh look, we're getting our click. Excellent, that bit is working. Oh, fantastic. We had a few problems with the motor stalling a little bit. So the main drive motor, which dictates the speed of play, so that just winds and winds and winds until it gets to the end, clicks a little switch and resets the game. So that'll be game over at that. Then we moved on to just testing a few of the relays mechanically. So I was closing the contacts with a probe and actually listening to other relays on the board, which is basically simulating the firing and the cactus falling, and we could see the cactus relay, which was good. And after doing that with all of the relays to check that at least the contacts on them was triggering the other relays, we saw that most of the board was coming into life. The only bit we couldn't really test was the position of the guns. So as they move into the positions, they basically cross-refer. If this is angle, this is on a certain angle, and this is on another angle, then that's going to give you a score. So we didn't see the score going up, and we didn't see the score relays, but that's probably because we haven't got everything else connected. Excellent. So that should get our, what's that one? What's that? Is that? Oh, I think that's our reset. Yeah, that's reset. So that slides all those back.
So back to the cleaning, but we still have some parts to dismantle. Starting with the speakers, which need to be tested, and the speaker grills, which have seen better days. Lots of rubbing down of flaky paintwork. The hinge for the coin door is in good shape and moves freely, but might just need an oil. And there you can see what a good life this game has had. Over 57,000 plays, which is quite a lot compared to other games we have here at the museum. The frames for the speaker grills would have been chromed originally, so I'm going to have to find either a local chromer or try something myself. Also, the legs are going to have to be stripped right back as they are completely rusty. And we want the game to have nice legs because that's the first thing you see. This is the part of the restoration I've really been looking forward to. It is the shooter, and I've decided to strip this right back. It's interesting to see that the trigger is attached to a leaf switch inside, which makes it easy to maintain. That will probably just need a good clean, but we're going to replace the old wiring for new. So what we're going to do with these is we are going to put them in this little Tupperware box and get some paint stripper on them, get them back to the metal and then respray. Give them a nice coat of new paint. This paint stripper is quite strong and it's going to need a good soaking for a few hours to work its way into the paintwork. But once you see the paint starting to peel, you can then start to use a wire brush to get the remaining parts off. This takes a few hours and a few coats of paint stripper to get deep into the more intricate areas. These come up really nice and it almost seems a shame to paint them again, as I love the look of that polished metal. But we want to get them back to what they were originally. So 2 coats of primer, sanding in between the final coat of black satin. So here we have it, a nicely sprayed black gun, but it's not quite finished yet because what we need to do is paint the handle, which is the wooden part of the gun. So what I've got here is some acrylic paints. I'm going to do an undercoat of brown, and then I'm going to mix in some white, and then dry brush a slightly different, lighter tone over the top, just to give it some depth, just so it looks real, really. Make it look as realistic as possible. We'll see how we get on. I love working with acrylic paints. They have such a nice texture, and painting this gun reminds me when I used to paint Citadel miniatures all those years ago for Games Workshop in the early 80s. It's so therapeutic. But when you, the Arcadians, step up to play this game at the museum once it's up and running, I want you to grip this gun, and I want you to feel like you're holding a real gun, like that Colt revolver that Clint Eastwood used in that classic film, The Man with No Name. I'm really pleased how these turned out, but they're still not quite finished. The gun on the right is missing the trigger guard, which I totally missed until I put these two guns together. It's a shame, but we'll just have to improvise and make something up to match. And I still need to paint more parts of the handle brown and then give it a coat of lacquer. Me and Richard have done plenty of late nights here restoring this machine, and time has just flown by. But you know what, having this space in the repair shop has been a real blessing. It's been cold, I mean like really cold, but because we can lay everything out here and see everything and not have to worry about putting things away every night, it's been great. Some days though it's just been too cold, especially for painting, so we've done the majority of those parts in the museum. Here you can see me touching up the paint, which is worn thin around the inside edge of the cabinet. It's not seen, but it's just nice to know that we've covered it and protected the wood.
Then we got to the most exciting bit, which we really wanted to do. So we moved the cabinet over and we plugged in the speakers. And this was the bit I was going to wait right until the last minute to do. But we plugged it in.
Yeah, and it was incredible.
And that sound effect.
Listen to this, it's
boom,
absolutely
it
amazing.
Is absolutely fantastic.
So cool, just to hear this come to life.
Ready? Wow, bang. Okay, let's try and get some noise.
Wow, that's awesome.
Next noise. Oh. So it shakes the whole cabinet. We had a bit of a shock to start with because these great big solenoid relays, and they make such a bang.
Made us jump.
And there's two of them, made us jump a bit. But that was because it's engaging the platform for play so you can then move around. So that's the first thing that happens when you put that coin in. So I think when someone puts that in, it's going to be a bit of a jolt when you get that.
And I realised as you were testing this, that the cactus or cacti stayed down once you shot it.
That's right,
Leaving a path for you to get the cowboy. So basically it's stopping the player from hiding constantly behind a cacti.
Yeah, so you must be able to hide behind it until you get that shot down, and then it's just a clear path then, because those contacts stay on, as you say. So then you've lost your cover, if you like. You've lost your cactus cover.
Incredible.
So all of these little secrets are coming out the more we play with the electronics, the more we play with the mechanics. But it does need a little bit more cleaning and a lot more sort of exercise of the mechanical components. You can tell they're a little bit stiff. They've got some old grease on, which I have been cleaning away. But
they've seized up a little bit, haven't they? But they've started to move. We've got to change of pace now. We've got some real heavy metal. And I'm not talking about Def Leppard or Bon Jovi. This is proper heavy metal with grinding, drilling on an industrial scale. These are the last three pieces of metal I need to work on, and as you can see, the rust is starting to come through. These would have been chromed back in the day. These are the speaker grills, the frames for the speaker grills, and this is the frame from where the coin gets rejected. And as you can see, this is really bad and needs some serious work done to it. Now, I have had a quote to get these re-chromed and it came to £175, which I thought was too much. So instead, I'm going to try something else. I'm going to sand these right back, get rid of all the rust, give them a prime, and then I'm going to try this, which is a metallic chrome spray. I'm not expecting to be as good as getting it chrome plated, but it's going to save me a lot of money. So I'm going to give it a try. If I don't like it, I can always sell some Street Fighter boards, save up and get them re-chromed. But let's see how I get on. Although this part looks completely rusty and it's lost a lot of its chrome, we can remove all of that and hopefully get it back looking better than new. This part is stainless steel, so this should be easy to polish with some Brasso. Same with the speaker grills, they just take a little bit longer, but they still come up looking brand new, which is absolutely great. The more I work on these other parts, the more I think I should go the extra mile and get them chromed, as I think we owe it to this machine to really bring it back to what it used to look like when it rolled off the factory floor. These are the bits I wanted chromed, but I've primed them, and I'm using, where is it? This. It comes out looking like that. I don't know. I'm not sure about that. That doesn't look right to me. I know I haven't sanded this down. It's just an old leg leveler. Got quoted 175 quid for those 3 bits. Of course, it's gone up since I was chroming those Nintendo corner pieces. We've still got much more to do. We've still got the acrylics to do, maybe get some of that recut and the frame to polish, and then assemble it all for the next episode.
Yeah, assemble it all back in. Which is going to be really exciting. We've got that playfield to put on, the guns to get all aligned, a little bit more work on that mechanical alignment system that triggers the gunshots. After that, then we should be getting close to
having a game.
Yeah, finished game.
That's it. Until the next episode, guys. Yeah. We'll see you then.
See you then. Bye-bye.
Take care. Brilliant.
That was good.
Yeah. I would like to make a very special thank you to all my patrons who have helped me and the museum work on this machine, because without you, it just wouldn't have been possible. If you haven't already subscribed to this channel, please do, as I'm really trying to push towards the 20,000 mark, which would really help me and the museum. Or if you would like to become a patron, head over to patreon.com/Arcade Archive, where you can support the museum and everything we do. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.